I stood in my doorway, stunned into silence as my sister Amanda handed me a backpack shaped like a cartoon character. The weight of betrayal settled in my chest when she casually mentioned they were heading to the airport for their Hawaiian vacation, the same vacation we had discussed taking together for months. When I asked about my ticket, Jeff, my brother-in-law, laughed and said they saved $8,000 by not including me. Before I could process what was happening, 3 sleepy children were ushered into my apartment. Only after they sped away did I find the note. Thanks for watching the kids for the next 2 weeks. We really needed this break. The next morning, I stared at the ceiling of my apartment, listening to the sounds of 3 children rummaging through my kitchen cabinets. I had only moved into this place 4 months ago after finally securing a position as a medical laboratory technician at Memorial Hospital. Years of working minimum wage jobs while putting myself through night school had finally paid off, and at 32, I was finally gaining financial stability. "Uncle Everett, there's nothing to eat," complained Tyler, my 10-year-old nephew, standing in my bedroom doorway. Behind him, Madison, age 7, was attempting to climb onto my counter to reach the single box of cereal I owned, while 4-year-old Lucas was sitting on my floor, methodically unraveling a roll of paper towels. "I wasn't exactly expecting guests," I said, getting up and making my way to the kitchen. "We'll go shopping after I make some calls." I pulled out my phone and tried Amanda again. Straight to voicemail, just like the 7 calls I'd made since last night. I sent another text. "You can't just drop your kids off for 2 weeks without warning. Call me immediately." While the kids ate the only food I had available, I paced my small living room, trying to figure out what to do. My shift started at 1 o'clock today, but tomorrow I had to be at the lab by 6 in the morning. Who would watch the kids? My apartment wasn't child-proofed. I didn't even have enough food for lunch, let alone 2 weeks of meals. My phone pinged with a text from Amanda. Not a call, just a message with a photo of her and Jeff boarding their flight, captioned, "Taking off. Kids' emergency contacts are in Tyler's backpack. Thanks again." I dug through Tyler's superhero backpack and found a folder of documents. As I flipped through them, my blood ran cold. Every form listed me as the primary emergency contact for school, daycare, and doctor's appointments. My name and number were everywhere, even ahead of their parents' information. "Tyler," I asked slowly, trying to keep my voice steady, "how long has Uncle Everett been your emergency contact?" Tyler shrugged, not looking up from his cereal. "I don't know. Mom changed it after you got your new place. She said, since you have a real job now, you could help more." The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a sudden imposition. This was the culmination of a plan my sister had been setting up for months. She had been systematically positioning me as a backup parent without my knowledge or consent. My phone rang. Finally, I thought, Amanda coming to her senses. But it was Paula, my supervisor at the lab. "Everett, just checking you're still coming in at 1. We've got those rush samples from the oncology department, and you're the only one who's completed the training on the new analyzer." "Yes, I'll be there," I promised, glancing at the 3 children who were now arguing over who got to use the television first. "But I've got a bit of a situation. We're short-staffed this week, and you're still on probation," Paula reminded me. "I need you focused and on time." After ending the call, I knelt down to the kids' level. "Okay, change of plans. We need to go shopping, and then I have to go to work. You'll have to come with me and sit in the break room." "Mom said we could play video games all day," Madison protested, her lower lip jutting out. "And I need my special snacks. I only eat the strawberry yogurt with the separate toppings, and I need my iPad time or I get headaches," Tyler added. Lucas just stared at me, then deliberately dropped my remote control onto the hardwood floor. 2 hours later, after a stressful shopping trip that cost nearly $200 for basic necessities, I found myself trying to set up 3 children in the hospital break room, with coloring books and snacks purchased from the cafeteria. "You can't keep them here," Paula said when she discovered us. "It's against hospital policy, patient confidentiality, insurance liability, a dozen regulations. I don't have a choice," I explained desperately. "My sister left them with me without warning." Paula's expression softened slightly. "You have today to figure something out." But tomorrow, you either find proper childcare or you call in. And Everett, she added as she turned to leave. 3 tardies or absences during probation means termination. You're already at 2. As I processed samples that afternoon, my mind raced through options. Daycare costs were astronomical for 3 children. I couldn't afford a babysitter. My parents lived in Florida. I had no close friends nearby who could help, having spent the last several years focused entirely on school and work. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Amanda, a selfie of her and Jeff on a Hawaiian beach, cocktails in hand, with the caption, "Finally relaxing. How are the kiddos?" I typed back. "This is completely unacceptable. I have to work. Who usually watches them when you're gone?" 3 hours later, as I was cleaning up spilled juice in my apartment while trying to convince Lucas to put on pajamas, she replied, "You'll figure it out. You're so good with them." That night, after finally getting all 3 children to sleep, I sat on my couch and calculated the cost of missing work versus the cost of emergency childcare. Either way, the apartment I had worked so hard for was at risk. As I drifted off to sleep, my phone pinged with one last message from Amanda, another vacation photo with the caption, "Best decision ever. Day 4 of unexpected childcare duty," and I was falling apart. My apartment looked like a tornado had hit it. I'd barely slept, and the kids were getting increasingly difficult to manage. "Mr. Daniels," my neighbor Mrs. Keller said when she knocked on my door that morning, "the noise coming from your apartment is simply unacceptable. The management office has received multiple complaints. You know this building is primarily for professionals and quiet is expected." "I'm sorry," I said, feeling a headache forming behind my eyes. "It's temporary. My niece and nephews are just visiting. Your lease specifies single occupancy," she reminded me pointedly before turning on her heel. I closed the door and leaned against it, watching Tyler and Madison fight over the television remote while Lucas methodically emptied my bookshelf. "Okay, everyone, listen up," I announced with forced cheerfulness. "What activities do you normally have during the week? School? Sports? Anything?" The 3 children looked at me blankly. "It's summer vacation," Tyler finally said. "We just stay home, by yourselves?" I asked, alarmed. Tyler shrugged. "Sometimes. Or different people come over. Mom says we're very independent." Madison nodded. "I can make lunch for Lucas. I'm allowed to use the microwave for mac and cheese." I tried to keep my expression neutral as I processed this information. "And who watches you when your parents go out?" "Sometimes the lady next door checks on us," Tyler said. "But she moved away. That's why we need you now." I felt sick. Had Amanda and Jeff been regularly leaving their children alone? Tyler was only 10, nowhere near old enough to be responsible for his younger siblings. My phone rang, and I grabbed it quickly, hoping it was finally Amanda calling to have a real conversation. Instead, it was Paula from the lab. "Everett, where are you? Your shift started 20 minutes ago." I looked at my watch in horror. In the chaos of the morning, I'd completely lost track of time. "I'm so sorry," I said. "I'm having a family emergency. I'll be there as soon as I can." "This is your 3rd tardy in the probationary period," she said, her voice stern. "We'll have to discuss this when you arrive." After scrambling to get all 3 kids dressed and into my car, I drove to the hospital with my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The children bickered in the back seat while I tried to figure out how I would explain 3 kids in the break room again. By some miracle, I managed to get through my shift with the children sitting quietly in the break room, bribed with vending machine snacks and my phone for entertainment. Paula gave me a formal written warning but allowed me to finish the day. Back at my apartment, I was making dinner when my phone finally rang with Amanda's name on the display. "Hey there, Super Uncle," she greeted cheerfully. "How's everything going with my little angels?" "Amanda, this has to stop," I said firmly. "I'm about to lose my job. I can't watch your children for 2 weeks without notice. You need to come home." "Don't be so dramatic," she scoffed. "Kids are easy, and they love staying with you. Besides, we've already paid for everything here. Non-refundable." "I'm not kidding," I insisted. "This isn't fair to me or to your kids. They need their parents." What they need is for their uncle to step up and be there for family, Amanda said, her tone suddenly cold. Mom and Dad always said you were selfish, putting your career before family. Prove them wrong. Before I could respond, Madison started screaming from the bathroom that Lucas had flushed her bracelet down the toilet. I heard water splashing. I have to go, I told Amanda. Call me back so we can actually discuss this. You're doing great, she chirped, ignoring my request. Gotta go, we have a sunset cruise booked. The bathroom was flooded, water soaking into the hallway carpet. As I frantically tried to stop the overflow, there was a knock at my door. Tyler answered it before I could intervene. Mr. Everett Daniels? A stern voice asked. I emerged from the bathroom, soaking wet, to find my apartment manager standing in my doorway, surveying the chaos with a disapproving expression. Mr. Daniels, I've received multiple noise complaints, and now there appears to be water damage occurring. Your lease specifically states single occupancy only. I need an explanation immediately. I tried to explain the situation while mopping up water and keeping Lucas from climbing onto my kitchen counter. The manager listened without sympathy. You have 48 hours to resolve this situation before I begin eviction proceedings, he said, handing me a formal warning notice. Family emergency or not, you're violating your lease terms. After he left, I sat down on my soaked bathroom floor and tried not to cry in front of the children. Madison approached cautiously and patted my shoulder. Don't worry, Uncle Everett. Mom says you worry too much about rules. She says sometimes you just gotta do what you want and ask for forgiveness later. That night, after getting the kids to bed, I was attempting to salvage my water-damaged laptop that contained all my work files when my phone chimed with a text from Amanda. Having the best time. Extended our stay another week. The resort had a cancellation and offered us an amazing rate. See you in 21 days instead of 14. You're the best brother ever. I stared at the message in disbelief. Another week? I couldn't do this. Something had to change. The next morning brought a new crisis. Madison woke up with a high fever and complaining of ear pain. I had to call in to work again to take her to an urgent care facility, where the doctor diagnosed a severe ear infection requiring antibiotics. The visit, without insurance information because Amanda wasn't answering her phone, cost me $340 out of pocket. As I sat in the pharmacy waiting for the prescription, holding a whimpering Madison while trying to keep Tyler and Lucas from knocking over displays, I checked my bank account. My savings, which I'd been so proud of building up over the past year, were rapidly dwindling. Between groceries, emergency supplies for the kids, the medical bills, and now medication, I had spent nearly $1,000 in less than a week. Back at my apartment, I received an email from Paula. Per hospital policy, your probationary status has been extended due to recent absences. Any further attendance issues will result in immediate termination. I checked social media, hoping to send Amanda a direct message, since she wasn't responding to texts. What I found made my blood boil. There were dozens of photos of their vacation, tagged with number, best parent vacation ever, and number, child free time. Comments from friends revealed a disturbing pattern. Enjoying your annual escape from the kids? Who'd you rope into babysitting this time? Last year you said your cousin was still mad months later. Smart move getting your brother to help now that he's finally stable. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a pattern of behavior. Amanda and Jeff regularly dumped their children on relatives without proper warning or preparation, then extended their trips without concern for the consequences. And my family had enabled this behavior for years. My phone rang. It was Amanda, finally. I answered immediately. Listen, Amanda. Everett, she slurred, clearly intoxicated despite it being only 2 in the afternoon in Hawaii. Just wanted to check on my babies. Amanda, you need to come home, I said firmly. Madison is sick. I'm about to lose my job. And, she laughed, cutting me off. You know what's funny? We never even considered taking you on vacation with us. That was just something to tell the kids. We needed someone reliable to watch them this time after what happened with cousin Rachel last year. She called CPS on us. Can you believe it? So dramatic. You lied to me? I was stunned by her casual admission. Oh, don't be so serious. It's what parents do to survive. Another voice spoke in the background, and Amanda giggled. "Gotta go. Jeff got us upgraded to the honeymoon suite." The line went dead, and I sat there holding my phone, a sick feeling growing in my stomach as I realized just how deep this manipulation went. 1 week into my unexpected childcare duties, I was scheduled to give a presentation on the new testing protocols I had helped develop. This project had been my chance to prove myself worthy of the permanent position at the hospital lab, something I had been working toward for years. "I'm sorry, Paula," I said over the phone, watching as the children ate breakfast at my small dining table. Madison was still on antibiotics. Tyler had developed a mysterious rash, and Lucas seemed determined to test gravity by dropping everything he could get his hands on. "I can't find anyone to watch the kids. Could we reschedule the presentation?" "Everett." Paula's voice was firm but not unkind. "Dr. Brennan and the department heads have already arranged their schedules around this meeting. This protocol implementation was your initiative, and without your presentation, it likely won't be approved. I understand you're in a difficult situation, but this is your final warning. If you miss this presentation, I will have no choice but to terminate your employment." I glanced at the children, then at my laptop with the presentation I had worked on for months. "I understand. I'll find a way to be there." After hanging up, I called every daycare in a 20-mile radius, only to be told they were either full or couldn't accept children without proper registration and immunization records. I even called my parents in Florida, desperate for advice. "Your sister has always been a free spirit," my mother said, her voice crackling through the speaker. "You know how Amanda is. She works so hard as a mother. She deserves a break now and then. Mom, she abandoned her children with me without warning for 3 weeks. I'm about to lose my job. How is this okay?" "Don't exaggerate, Everett. It's just family helping family. When you have children of your own someday, you'll understand how important it is to have support. Support is different from exploitation," I argued, feeling my frustration rise. I would have helped if she had asked properly, made arrangements. "This isn't fair to me or to the kids. You've always been so rigid about your plans." My father's voice joined in, apparently on speakerphone. "Life doesn't always go according to schedule, son. Sometimes you need to be flexible." "Flexible? Dad, I'm about to lose my apartment and my job." "Well, maybe you should have thought about that before choosing such an inflexible career," my mother sniffed. "Amanda needs this vacation. She sacrifices so much for those children every day." After the call ended, I sat staring at the wall, the weight of realization settling over me. This wasn't just Amanda's problem. My entire family had a pattern of enabling her irresponsible behavior while expecting me to be the responsible one who should sacrifice everything when needed. Lucas tugged on my sleeve. "Uncle Everett, I miss Mommy and Daddy." I pulled him into a hug. "I know, buddy. I miss when they were being responsible parents, too." The day of the presentation arrived. I had no choice but to bring all 3 children to the hospital with me. I bribed them with promises of ice cream and unlimited tablet time if they could just sit quietly in the break room for 1 hour while I gave my presentation. "Remember, this is really important for Uncle Everett," I told them seriously. "If you need anything, ask Maria at the front desk, but only if it's a real emergency." The presentation started well. I was nervous but prepared, and the department head seemed engaged with my proposed protocol changes. 15 minutes in, however, the door burst open, and Lucas ran in crying, followed by an apologetic-looking receptionist. "He was asking for the bathroom," she explained. "I'm sorry. He got away from me on the way back." Lucas attached himself to my leg, sobbing loudly. The medical director raised his eyebrows, while Dr. Brennan checked his watch impatiently. "I apologize for the interruption," I said, feeling my chance at career advancement crumbling before my eyes. "My nephew is staying with me temporarily." I tried to continue, but Lucas wouldn't stop crying. Eventually, Paula had to escort him out, and by the time I resumed, the energy in the room had completely shifted. I rushed through the remainder of my slides, watching as the directors exchanged glances, and Dr. Brennan typed something into his tablet. The meeting ended with polite but cool thank yous, and no questions or feedback. Paula found me in my office afterward, where I sat with my head in my hands while the children colored quietly in the corner, subdued by my obvious distress. "That was unfortunate timing," she said gently. "Am I fired?" I asked directly. Not today, she replied. But Everett, you need to resolve this situation. Dr. Brennan was not impressed, and he's the one who ultimately approves permanent positions after probation. That evening, as I microwaved yet another dinner of frozen chicken nuggets for the kids, my phone chimed with a notification. Amanda had tagged me in another vacation photo on social media, this one showing her and Jeff parasailing with the caption, "Living our best life while Uncle Everett bonds with the kiddos." I scrolled through the comments, my anger growing as friends and family praised them for finding reliable childcare and prioritizing their marriage. Not a single person questioned the ethics of dumping 3 children on an unprepared relative for 3 weeks. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, is this Everett Daniels?" A professional voice asked. "Yes, this is Everett. This is Miss Thompson from Lakeside Elementary School. I'm Tyler and Madison's guidance counselor. We've been trying to reach their parents regarding some concerns, but haven't been able to contact them. I understand you're currently caring for the children?" "Yes, temporarily," I confirmed, a knot forming in my stomach. "Mr. Daniels, this isn't the first time we've had difficulty reaching the children's parents during an extended absence. I was wondering if we could set up a meeting to discuss some ongoing concerns the school has." After arranging a meeting for the following day, I sat down with Tyler while Madison and Lucas were occupied with a cartoon. "Tyler, how often do your parents go away like this?" I asked carefully. He shrugged, not meeting my eyes. "A couple times a year, I guess. Usually they find someone to stay with us, but sometimes we just stay home." "By yourselves?" I asked, alarmed. "I'm the man of the house when Dad's gone," he said, repeating what was clearly a phrase he'd been taught. "I know how to call 911, and there's frozen dinners in the freezer. And how do you feel about that? About staying alone or being dropped off with relatives?" Tyler was quiet for a long moment. "I don't like it," he finally whispered. "It's scary being responsible for Madison and Lucas, and when we stay with other people, they always get mad at us after a while. Then Mom and Dad come back and everyone's fighting." I put my arm around his thin shoulders. "That must be really hard. Are you mad at us too?" he asked in a small voice. "No, Tyler. I'm not mad at you or your brother and sister. I'm concerned about the situation, but none of this is your fault." That night, after the children were asleep, I scrolled through Amanda's social media history, finding evidence of at least 4 other extended parent vacations in the past 2 years. Comments from various family members showed a pattern. Initial support followed by unanswered calls for them to return, ending with strained relationships and Amanda complaining about unsupportive family. I was beginning to see a lifelong pattern I had missed. Amanda creating chaos, everyone accommodating her, then suffering the consequences while she moved on to the next victim. And now, I was just the latest in a long line of family members she had manipulated. As I closed my laptop, my phone chimed once more. A text from Amanda. "Having such an amazing time. By the way, we might stay an extra few days since we're already here. The resort is offering a special rate for extending again. You don't mind, right? The kids are probably loving their time with Uncle Everett." This was the moment something inside me finally snapped. I was done being manipulated, done sacrificing my life, my career, and my future for someone who wouldn't do the same for me. It was time to take action, not just for my sake, but for the children who deserve better than being pawns in their parents' selfish games. After a sleepless night, I dropped the kids off with the hospital daycare coordinator, who had agreed to watch them as a special favor while I attended an emergency meeting with my supervisor. The news wasn't good. "I fought for you, Everett," Paula said, her expression sympathetic but firm. "But the decision has been made. Your probationary period is being extended by 60 days, and you're being removed from the Special Projects team. Dr. Brennan feels your personal situation is affecting your ability to contribute at the level required." I nodded, accepting the blow. It wasn't termination, but it was a significant setback to my career advancement. "I understand. Thank you for advocating for me. Have you made any progress with your family situation?" she asked. "I'm working on a solution," I promised. My next stop was Tyler and Madison's school, where I met with Miss Thompson, the guidance counselor. Her office was warm and inviting, clearly designed to make children feel comfortable. but her expression was serious as she closed the door. "Mr. Daniels, I want to be direct with you. This isn't the first time we've had concerns about Tyler and Madison's home situation." She opened a file on her desk. "In the past 2 years, there have been 7 instances where the school was unable to reach either parent during school hours for multiple consecutive days. Tyler has been late or absent 26 times this school year alone, often responsible for getting his sister to school as well. Madison's teacher has noted that she frequently comes to school without proper supplies or appropriate seasonal clothing." My heart sank as she continued. "Both children have mentioned to staff that they sometimes prepare their own meals and take care of their younger brother. Tyler has fallen asleep in class multiple times, telling his teacher he had to be on duty at night. These are concerning patterns that suggest inconsistent supervision." "Have you discussed this with their parents?" I asked. "We've tried. Your sister and brother-in-law are charming and apologetic in meetings, promising changes that never materialize. They've mentioned family emergencies, work commitments, and various other excuses." She looked at me carefully. "Mr. Daniels, I understand you're in a difficult position as a family member, but I need to be clear that if the children return to our school next year in similar circumstances, we will be obligated to make a formal report to Child Protective Services." After leaving the school, I sat in my car for several minutes, processing everything I'd learned. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about 3 children being neglected by parents who prioritized their own desires above their children's basic needs. I made 2 calls. The first was to a legal aid office that offered free initial consultations. The second was to Child Protective Services, not to make a report, but to ask for information about what constituted abandonment and what my responsibilities were as a temporary caregiver. In cases where parents have left children with a family member without proper authorization or support, we would first try to work with the family to establish appropriate guardianship arrangements, the CPS worker explained. "Our goal is always to keep children safe while maintaining family connections when possible." "And if the parents return and take the children back to an unsafe situation?" I asked. "Document everything," she advised. "Dates, times, conversations, conditions. If you believe the children are in danger, you can make a formal report at that time." After picking up the kids from the hospital daycare with profuse thanks to the coordinator, I took them for ice cream. Watching them enjoy this simple pleasure, I felt a surge of protective love. They deserved stability, consistency, and parents who put their needs first. My apartment door was taped with another notice when we returned. Final warning. Unauthorized occupants. Eviction proceedings will begin in 24 hours if lease violations continue. I was explaining the situation to the kids, as gently as possible, when my phone rang. It was my mother. "Everett, your father and I have been thinking about this situation, and we've decided to fly up tomorrow to help out." I felt a momentary surge of relief. "That's great, Mom. I could really use the support right now." "Yes, we'll take over with the children so you can get back to work. We've already booked our flights." "Thank you," I said, genuinely grateful. "Maybe you can help me convince Amanda to come home early, or at least provide proper authorization for the kids' care." There was a pause on the line. "Well, about that. We've spoken to Amanda, and she explained how difficult you're being about this whole situation. Everett, your sister deserves this vacation. She works tirelessly as a mother all year." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, she abandoned her kids without proper arrangements. The school has documented concerns about neglect. This isn't about a vacation. It's about responsibility." "There you go again, always so judgmental." My mother sighed. "This is why we're coming up. Someone needs to smooth things over and keep the peace in this family." By the time my parents arrived the next afternoon, I had made several decisions. I had spoken with the legal aid attorney, documented all communications with Amanda, photographed the conditions the children had been left in, and organized all the information from the school. "Everett, you're overreacting as usual," my father announced after settling into my living room. "Your sister is just enjoying a well-deserved break. When we were raising you kids, we never had these kinds of luxuries. This isn't about a vacation, Dad. It's about abandoning 3 children without proper arrangements, lying about it, and having a documented pattern of neglect." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "Neglect is such a harsh word. Amanda is a devoted mother who occasionally needs time for self-care. All modern parenting books recommend it. Did these parenting books recommend leaving children alone overnight? Or dropping them off with unprepared relatives, without proper supplies or contact information? I pulled out the folder of documentation I had collected. Did they recommend ignoring calls from the school, or sending a 10-year-old to class without lunch for a week straight? My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. "We didn't raise you to be so unforgiving," my mother said stiffly. "Family helps family, period." "Did you know about this vacation in advance?" I asked suddenly, watching their expressions carefully. "Did Amanda tell you she was planning to dump the kids with me without warning?" Their silence and averted eyes told me everything. "You knew," I said quietly. "You knew, and you didn't warn me." "She made us promise not to say anything," my father admitted. "She said you would just make a fuss and refuse if you had time to think about it. And that didn't strike you as manipulative? As wrong?" "Everett," my mother began in her most reasonable tone, "your sister has always been more spontaneous than you. She needed this time with Jeff to reconnect. Their marriage has been strained lately, so their marriage problems justify endangering their children. Because that's what's happening here, Mom. Tyler is parenting his siblings. Madison is missing school. Lucas barely knows his parents' phone number. The school is documenting neglect. Now you're just being dramatic," my father said, but I could see doubt beginning to creep into his expression. "I have to be at work at 6 a.m. tomorrow for critical lab testing that will affect dozens of patients' treatments," I said firmly. "I can't miss it or I will lose my job. I've arranged for proper childcare with someone qualified to look after 3 children. You're welcome to stay and help, but I need to know if you're going to support Amanda's neglect or help me ensure these kids are properly cared for." My parents looked at each other, decades of enabling behavior weighing against the evidence I had presented. "We'll stay and help," my father finally said, "but we still think you're making too big a deal of this. It's just family helping family." That night, after everyone was asleep, I received a text from Amanda. "Just checking in. How are my little angels? P.S. We might extend again. The resort has a special package deal for a full month stay. Isn't that amazing?" I stared at the message for a long time, the casual entitlement it displayed cementing my resolve. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about 3 children who deserved better than to be afterthoughts in their parents' lives. The next morning, I had to be at the hospital by 6 for a critical testing protocol that couldn't be rescheduled. As I prepared to leave, my parents were still sleeping in my living room. I looked at the 3 children who had been unexpectedly thrust into my care, feeling both a deep responsibility toward them and the certainty that I needed to take decisive action. I made a phone call, confirming arrangements I had made the day before. Then I woke Tyler, Madison, and Lucas, helping them dress quietly. "Where are we going, Uncle Everett?" Madison whispered as I helped her with her shoes. "Somewhere safe," I promised. "Somewhere you'll be taken care of properly until your parents come home." I left a detailed note for my parents explaining my actions and providing contact information, then led the children to my car in the pre-dawn darkness. The digital clock on my dashboard read 5:46 a.m. as we pulled away from my apartment building. It was time to do what was right, not just what was easy or expected. It was time to protect these children and myself from a cycle of manipulation that had gone on far too long. "You have a nice house," Madison commented as we pulled into the driveway of a cheerful-looking suburban home with flower boxes in the windows. "This is Cousin Sarah's house," I explained, helping Lucas with his seatbelt. "She's going to take care of you for a few days while I sort things out." Sarah was waiting for us at the door, her expression warm but concerned. At 38, she was our cousin on our mother's side, a school counselor with 2 teenagers of her own and a reputation for being the most level-headed member of our extended family. "Come in, everyone," she greeted, ushering us inside. "I've got breakfast ready, and the kids' rooms are all set up." While the children ate pancakes in the kitchen with Sarah's husband, Mark, I explained the full situation to her in the living room, showing her the documentation I had collected. "I'm not surprised," Sarah sighed. "Amanda has been pulling stunts like this for years. Remember when she left town the day before she was supposed to be my bridesmaid? Or when she borrowed Uncle Jim's cabin for a weekend and stayed for 3 weeks? "This is different," I said firmly. "This involves children, her children, and it's part of a pattern that the school has documented as potential neglect." Sarah nodded, examining the notes from the guidance counselor. "I've seen similar patterns in my work. Parents who prioritize their own needs and use family as unpaid, unprepared childcare. It's more common than you'd think, but that doesn't make it right." I handed her a folder containing medical information, school contacts, and my detailed notes on the children's routines and needs. "I've spoken with a legal aid attorney," I explained. "What Amanda and Jeff did could be considered abandonment, especially since they've repeatedly extended their trip without ensuring proper care arrangements. I've documented everything, including their social media posts showing this is a pattern." "What are you planning to do?" Sarah asked. "I have to be at work in 20 minutes for critical lab testing. After that, I'm going to contact Amanda and Jeff directly and explain that their children are safe with you, but that this situation cannot continue. I'll give them the choice to either return immediately or provide proper temporary guardianship authorization and financial support. If they refuse both, I'll have no choice but to file a formal report with CPS." Sarah's expression was sympathetic but resolute. "I support your decision, Everett. The children's welfare has to come first. Mark and I are happy to keep them here as long as needed. My schedule is flexible, and our kids are old enough to help out." "Thank you," I said, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. "I've left a note for my parents explaining everything, but I expect they'll call you soon. They're still in denial about Amanda's behavior." "I'll handle your parents," Sarah promised. "This isn't the first time I've had to be the voice of reason in this family. Now go, or you'll be late for work." I knelt down to say goodbye to the children, assuring them I would visit after work and explaining that Cousin Sarah would take good care of them. "Are we in trouble?" Tyler asked quietly. "No, buddy. You're not in trouble at all. The adults are sorting out some grown-up problems, but you're safe and cared for, I promise." As I drove to the hospital, I felt both relief and apprehension. I had taken a decisive step to protect both the children and myself, but I knew there would be consequences. My phone had already started buzzing with messages from my parents, who had awakened to find us gone. The hospital lab was busy with the morning rush of samples when I arrived, precisely on time. Paula nodded approvingly as I donned my lab coat and got to work immediately on the oncology department's priority testing. "Everything okay?" she asked during a brief lull. "Getting there," I replied. "I've made arrangements for proper childcare for my niece and nephews." "Good," she said simply. "Dr. Brennan will be stopping by later to observe the new protocol implementation." The morning passed in a focused blur of samples, testing, and documentation. I felt more like myself than I had in days, competent and purposeful, in a controlled environment where my expertise mattered. Dr. Brennan's visit went smoothly, and he seemed impressed by the efficiency of the new testing method I had helped develop. During my lunch break, I found a quiet corner and made the call I had been dreading. Amanda's phone went to voicemail as expected, so I sent a text instead. "The children are safe with Sarah. I can no longer care for them due to work obligations and housing restrictions. Please call me as soon as possible to discuss arrangements for their care until you return." I then called my parents, who had left 7 increasingly frantic voicemails. "How could you just take the children and leave?" my mother demanded when she answered. "We were going to help you. The children need stable, prepared care by someone who isn't at risk of losing their job," I explained calmly. "Sarah is a professional counselor with experience caring for children. She has the space, the time, and the resources to look after them properly. But we're their grandparents," my father protested in the background. "And you're welcome to visit them at Sarah's," I replied. "But this arrangement is what's best for the children right now." After work, I drove to my apartment to find my parents waiting outside my door, expressions thunderous. "Amanda is furious," my mother announced as I unlocked my door. "She says you've ruined their vacation with your dramatics." "Amanda abandoned her children without proper arrangements for 3 weeks," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "Their school has documented concerns about neglect. I've lost my apartment lease and nearly lost my job. If her vacation is ruined, she has only herself to blame." My father's expression softened slightly. "Son, I know you're upset, but this is family. We handle these things privately, not by involving outsiders. Sarah is family," I reminded him, "and sometimes family enables harmful behavior instead of addressing it. I'm done enabling Amanda's irresponsibility when it puts children at risk." My mother's phone rang, and she answered it immediately. "Amanda, darling." "Yes, we're with him now." She covered the phone with her hand and hissed at me. "She wants to talk to you." I took the phone and braced myself. "Hello, Amanda. How dare you take my children without permission?" she shrieked, loud enough that my parents could hear. "I trusted you, and this is how you repay me? By kidnapping them and taking them to Sarah's of all places?" "I didn't kidnap anyone," I replied evenly. "I arranged appropriate care for children who were left with me, without proper authorization or support. Sarah is a qualified childcare professional, with the space and resources to look after them properly. You had no right. I'm their mother." "Yes, you are. A mother who left her children for a 3-week vacation without proper arrangements, ignored calls from their school, and has a documented pattern of neglect. I have 2 options for you, Amanda. Either you and Jeff return home immediately to care for your children, or you provide Sarah with temporary guardianship authorization and financial support for their care until you return." "Or what?" she challenged. "Or I will file a formal report with Child Protective Services detailing the abandonment and the school's documented concerns." There was a stunned silence on the line. Then Amanda's voice turned saccharine. "Everett, you wouldn't do that to your own sister, to your own family." "This isn't about you or me," I said firmly. "It's about Tyler, Madison, and Lucas, 3 children who deserve better than to be afterthoughts in their parents' lives." After more arguing, threats, and eventually tears, Amanda agreed to call Sarah directly to make arrangements. My parents stared at me with a mixture of shock and grudging respect as I handed back the phone. "She's going to hold this against you forever," my mother warned. "Maybe," I acknowledged. "But I can live with that easier than I could live with enabling neglect." That evening, I visited the children at Sarah's house, bringing their favorite snacks and books I had purchased for them. They seemed more relaxed already, playing in the backyard with Sarah's teenagers, who were surprisingly patient with their younger cousins. Amanda called. Sarah told me as we watched the children from her kitchen window. She and Jeff are cutting their trip short. They'll be back in 3 days. "Did she agree to your terms?" Sarah nodded. "Temporary guardianship papers are being emailed tonight, along with funds for their expenses. I made it clear that without these, I would support your decision to contact CPS." "Thank you," I said sincerely. Not everyone in this family would have taken this stand. "It's time someone did," Sarah replied simply. "This pattern has gone on too long." As I prepared to leave, Tyler approached me hesitantly. "Uncle Everett? Are Mom and Dad mad at us?" I knelt down to his level. "No, Tyler. They're not mad at you or your brother and sister. They're coming home soon, and in the meantime, you get to stay here with Cousin Sarah, who has that awesome trampoline in the backyard." "Are they mad at you?" he persisted, his young face serious. I considered my answer carefully. "They're upset about some adult decisions, but that's not your concern. What matters is that you kids are safe and cared for properly." Tyler threw his arms around my neck suddenly. "You're a good uncle," he whispered, "even if you don't know which cereals we like." That night, as I returned to my quiet apartment, I felt a sense of peace despite the family chaos I had unleashed. For perhaps the first time in my adult life, I had stood up for what was right instead of what was expected, and the weight of that choice felt surprisingly light on my shoulders. The hospital lab was unusually busy the next morning, with several critical patients requiring immediate test results. I was focused on a complex analysis when Paula approached my workstation. "Everett, Dr. Brennan would like to see you in his office when you've completed that series." My heart sank. Despite my efforts to balance work and family responsibilities, it seemed my career might still be in jeopardy. I completed the analysis meticulously, double-checking all results before heading to the medical director's office. Dr. Brennan was reviewing charts when I knocked on his door. "Ah, Everett, come in, please." I sat across from him, preparing myself for bad news. "Paula tells me you've been dealing with a family emergency this past week," he began. setting aside his tablet. Something about unexpected childcare responsibilities? Yes, sir. My sister left her 3 children with me, without proper warning or arrangements. I've since found more appropriate care for them while maintaining my work schedule. Dr. Brennan nodded thoughtfully. Family obligations can be challenging to balance with professional responsibilities, especially in healthcare where our work directly impacts patient outcomes. I understand, sir. If this is about extending my probation or removing me from the special projects team, I accept those consequences. To my surprise, Dr. Brennan smiled slightly. Actually, I wanted to commend you on your handling of yesterday's oncology panel testing. Despite your personal challenges, your work was precise, efficient, and showed excellent attention to detail. Several of the oncologists specifically mentioned the quality and timeliness of the results. Thank you, sir, I said, confused by this unexpected turn. Paula also mentioned that the protocol changes you presented, despite the unfortunate interruption, show considerable promise for improving our efficiency. We'll be implementing a trial run next month, and I'd like you to lead the training sessions. I blinked, processing this information. I appreciate the opportunity, Dr. Brennan. He leaned forward, his expression becoming more personal. Everett, I have 3 grandchildren myself. I understand family emergencies happen. What matters is how we handle them while maintaining our professional standards. You've demonstrated an admirable ability to balance both, even under difficult circumstances. As I left his office, Paula was waiting outside with a knowing smile. I told him you were worth fighting for, she said. Just don't make a habit of bringing children to presentation meetings. Never again, I promised, feeling a weight lift from my professional life. That afternoon, I visited Sarah's house to check on the children. They were settling in well, with Tyler particularly enjoying having older cousins who played video games with him, while Madison had discovered Sarah's craft supplies. Amanda called again. Sarah informed me quietly while the children played in the next room. She and Jeff are flying back tomorrow. They want to pick up the kids directly from here. How did she sound? I asked cautiously. Subdued, Sarah replied. I made it very clear what would happen if this situation ever repeated itself. I think it's finally sinking in, that this time is different, that there are actual consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from my apartment manager. Final inspection scheduled for Friday. Premises must be vacant and returned to original condition per eviction notice. Sarah noticed my expression. What's wrong? I've lost my apartment, I admitted. Too many lease violations. I have to be out by Friday. You can stay here until you find a new place, she offered immediately. Thanks, but I've already found a temporary sublet closer to the hospital. It's actually a better commute, and the building allows short-notice leasing for medical personnel. The next morning at 5:46 a.m., exactly 1 week after I had driven the children to Sarah's house, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Is this Everett Daniels? A professional voice asked. Yes, this is Everett. Mr. Daniels, my name is Robert Fisher, from Child Protective Services. We've received a report concerning your niece and nephews, Tyler, Madison, and Lucas Bennett. The report alleges that you abandoned the children with a relative without proper authorization from their parents. I'm calling to schedule an interview regarding these allegations. My heart pounded in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. I understand. May I ask who filed this report? The report was made by Amanda and Jeffrey Bennett, the children's parents. They claim you took their children without permission while they were on vacation and refused to return them. I took a deep breath. Mr. Fisher, I have extensive documentation of the actual circumstances, including text messages, emails, and witness statements. I'd be happy to meet with you and provide this information. That would be helpful, Mr. Fisher replied, his tone neutral but not unkind. How about this afternoon at 3? After arranging the meeting, I called Sarah immediately. Amanda and Jeff have reported me to CPS for allegedly abandoning their children. Sarah's response was unprintable. Those manipulative, gaslighting. Wait until I tell them what I think of this stunt. No, this is actually good, I said, surprising myself with the calm certainty in my voice. This forces everything into the open, documented by official channels. I have all the evidence, plus the school's records. This may be exactly what the children need. The CPS office was a plain government building, with faded posters about child safety on the walls. Mr. Fisher turned out to be a middle-aged man with kind eyes and an expression that suggested he had seen every type of family drama possible. "I've been a caseworker for 20 years, he explained as we sat in his small office. "I've learned to reserve judgment until I have all the facts. Please tell me your version of events." I provided a clear, chronological account of everything that had happened, from Amanda and Jeff's unannounced drop-off to the school's documented concerns about neglect. I shared the text messages, social media posts, and emails I had collected, as well as contact information for the school guidance counselor and cousin Sarah. Mr. Fisher took notes throughout, occasionally asking clarifying questions. His expression remained neutral, though I noticed his eyebrows rise several times at particularly telling pieces of evidence. "So, to summarize," he said, "when I had finished, your sister and brother-in-law left their 3 children with you without proper warning or preparation, extended their vacation multiple times, ignored your concerns about your work and housing situation, and have a documented history of similar behavior." "That's correct," I confirmed. "When it became clear I would lose my job if I missed another shift, I arranged for the children to stay with our cousin Sarah, who is a school counselor with proper accommodations for 3 children. I informed my sister of this arrangement and provided full contact information." Mr. Fisher made one final note, then looked up at me. "Mr. Daniels, based on what you've shown me, I don't see evidence of abandonment on your part. In fact, you appear to have acted responsibly to ensure the children's safety and well-being. I'll need to interview the children, your cousin, and eventually your sister and her husband. But I wanted to reassure you that you're not the focus of our concern at this point." Relief washed over me. "Thank you. My only concern has been the children's welfare." "That's evident from your actions," Mr. Fisher said, closing his notebook. "Unfortunately, what is also evident is a pattern of parental behavior that raises significant concerns. Rest assured that we will be investigating thoroughly." As I left the CPS office, my phone buzzed with multiple text notifications. Amanda and Jeff had landed and were heading to Sarah's house to pick up the children. My parents were also there, apparently to support Amanda in this difficult time. Sarah had texted asking if I wanted to be present when they arrived. After a moment's consideration, I replied, "No need. The children are what matter, not the drama. Let me know how it goes." Instead of joining the family confrontation, I went to my apartment and continued packing my belongings for Friday's move. I had made my stand, taken action based on principle rather than family pressure, and now I needed to rebuild my own life. The children were safe, CPS was involved, and for once, Amanda would have to face the consequences of her actions without me smoothing the way. My phone rang just after 7 that evening. It was Sarah. "You missed quite the performance," she said, a mix of exasperation and grim amusement in her voice. Amanda arrived ready for battle, only to find a CPS worker here interviewing the children. "Mr. Fisher works quickly," I commented. "Indeed." Amanda switched tactics immediately, going from righteous indignation to perfect mother mode. Jeff looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "Your parents were confused until I explained exactly what Amanda and Jeff had done and what the potential consequences were. How did they react?" "Your father actually seemed to get it. He took Jeff aside for a man-to-man talk that left Jeff looking shaken. Your mother is still in denial, but even she couldn't ignore the school documentation." "And the kids?" I asked, most concerned about them. "They're home with their parents now, but with a safety plan in place. CPS has scheduled follow-up visits, and the school will be monitoring the situation closely. Amanda and Jeff have been required to attend parenting classes and family therapy." I felt a complex mix of emotions, relief foremost among them. "Thank you, Sarah, for everything you've done. Thank you for having the courage to break the cycle," she replied. "Someone needed to stand up to Amanda, and the rest of the family has been enabling her for too long." As I hung up, my phone chimed with a text from an unexpected source. It was Tyler, apparently using his mother's phone. "Hi, Uncle Everett. Mom says I can text you. Thank you for taking care of us and for the cool books. Can I still visit sometimes? Mom and Dad promise they won't leave us again without asking first. Despite everything, I smiled. Perhaps some good had come from this difficult situation after all. 3 months had passed since the dramatic conclusion of what our family now referred to as the Hawaii incident. I had settled into my new apartment, a sunny one-bedroom closer to the hospital, and had been confirmed in my permanent position in the lab with a modest raise. The autumn leaves were falling as I sat on a park bench, watching Tyler kick a soccer ball with his new team. Amanda sat beside me, a respectful distance between us as we cheered on her son's impressive footwork. "He's really improved," I commented. "The coaching seems to be helping." Amanda nodded, her expression more subdued than I had ever seen it before. "The structure has been good for him. For all of us, really." The mandatory parenting classes and family therapy had wrought significant changes in my sister and brother-in-law. While Amanda would never be a perfectly organized parent, she had begun to recognize the impact of her cavalier approach to childcare on her children's well-being. "Jeff's taking Madison to her dance class," she continued. "We've set up a calendar system, like the family therapist suggested. No more dropping the ball on activities." We sat in silence for a few moments, the awkwardness of our new relationship still evident. After the CPS investigation, Amanda had initially been furious with me, threatening to cut me out of her life completely. Our parents had been torn, trying to mediate while still processing their own role in enabling Amanda's behavior over the years. "The family therapy session is next Thursday," Amanda said suddenly. "Dr. Winters thinks it would be helpful if you attended, to talk about boundaries and expectations going forward." I considered this invitation, recognizing it as the olive branch it was intended to be. "I can do that," I agreed. "My shift ends at 4, so I could make a 5 o'clock session." Amanda nodded, relief evident in her posture. "Thanks. I know it's not easy, being around us right now." "It's not about easy," I replied. "It's about what's right for the kids, and for all of us, in the long run." The CPS case had been a wake-up call for our entire family. My parents had finally recognized the pattern of enabling that had contributed to Amanda's behavior, while Jeff had stepped up in ways no one expected, taking a more active role in parenting and household management. The children were thriving with the increased stability and consistent boundaries. As for me, the experience had transformed how I viewed family obligations and my own boundaries. I had learned to say no without guilt, to prioritize my well-being alongside my desire to help others, and to recognize the difference between support and enabling. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Dinner still on for Sunday?" "The kids are excited to see their uncle the hero." I smiled at her choice of words. Sarah and I had grown closer through this ordeal, reconnecting as adults with shared values despite our different life paths. Her teenage children had adopted my niece and nephews as honorary siblings, creating a broader sense of family support that benefited everyone. After Tyler's soccer practice, I helped Amanda load equipment into her car. "Mom mentioned you started some kind of support group," she asked hesitantly. "Not exactly a support group," I clarified. "More like a resource network for family members dealing with boundary issues." Sarah and I put it together after realizing how many people struggle with similar situations. What had begun as casual conversations with colleagues about family challenges had evolved into regular monthly meetings at the community center. People shared stories, strategies, and support for establishing healthy boundaries with loved ones who crossed them repeatedly. The group had grown steadily, with participants reporting significant improvements in their family dynamics and personal well-being. "Maybe I should attend sometime," Amanda said quietly. "From the other perspective, might be good for my therapy homework." I looked at my sister, truly seeing her vulnerability perhaps for the first time. "I think that would be really valuable, Amanda, for everyone." As I drove home that evening, I reflected on how much had changed in just 3 months. My career was back on track, with Dr. Brennan even mentioning future leadership opportunities. My relationship with my family had been painful and difficult to reconstruct, but was now based on mutual respect rather than expectation and obligation. Most importantly, 3 children were receiving the consistent care and attention they deserved. The following weekend, I hosted a small gathering at my new apartment. Sarah and her family came, along with my parents who had flown in from Florida. Amanda, Jeff, and the children arrived last, bearing a homemade cake decorated somewhat messily by Madison. "We have an announcement," Amanda said once everyone was seated in my small living room. Jeff and I have been doing a lot of thinking and a lot of work with our therapist. Jeff nodded, taking her hand in a gesture of support. We've realized we need to make some changes in how we approach parenting and family relationships. We've decided to move, Amanda continued. We found a house just 3 blocks from Sarah's family. We want the kids to have that consistent support system, and we could use the help sometimes, the right way, with proper planning and communication. My parents exchanged surprised glances. My father cleared his throat. That's quite a change from your usual spontaneity, Amanda. Spontaneity has its place, she acknowledged, but not at the expense of stability for the children. We're learning the difference. As the conversation continued around me, Tyler sidled up to my side. Uncle Everett, are you mad that we're moving closer to Cousin Sarah instead of you? I smiled at my nephew, ruffling his hair affectionately. Not at all, buddy. I think it's a great decision. And I'm only a 20-minute drive away for whenever you want to visit. Mom says you're the one who taught her that sometimes love means making hard choices, Tyler said, his expression serious beyond his years. She says you loved us enough to do the right thing even when it was really hard. I felt a lump form in my throat. Your mom's right about that. Sometimes the hardest choices are the most important ones. Later that evening, as the gathering wound down, I found myself standing on my small balcony with Sarah, watching the sunset over the city skyline. You know, when you drove away with the kids that morning at 5:46, I don't think any of us realized how much would change, she mused. I was just trying to keep my job and make sure the kids were safe, I admitted. I never expected it would transform our entire family dynamic. Sarah smiled. That's often how the most important changes happen. One person decides to stop the cycle, to do what's right instead of what's expected. Then everyone else has to adapt to the new reality. Do you think it will last? I asked, watching Amanda inside the apartment, helping Madison clear plates with a patience I had rarely seen in my sister before. I think it has a better chance than ever before, Sarah replied. Not because Amanda and Jeff have suddenly become perfect parents, but because they finally understand there are consequences to their choices, and because they know they're not alone, but they can't take advantage anymore. As my family prepared to leave, there were hugs all around, even an awkward one between Amanda and me. The path to rebuilding trust would be long, but we had taken the first steps. My mother lingered behind the others, touching my arm gently. I'm proud of you, Everett, she said quietly. I didn't understand at first, but I do now. You did what I should have done years ago, instead of making excuses for your sister. You put the children first. After everyone had gone, I sat alone in my quiet apartment, reflecting on the journey of the past months. From the shock of 3 unexpected children appearing at my door to the painful but necessary confrontations that followed, each step had taught me something about family, responsibility, and my own capacity for decisive action when it truly mattered. The experience had changed me, making me more confident in my boundaries and more compassionate toward others struggling with similar challenges. It had clarified my values and priorities in ways I hadn't expected, leading me to build connections within my community and rediscover relationships with family members like Sarah who shared my perspective. Most importantly, it had shown me that sometimes doing the right thing requires courage, especially when it means breaking established patterns and risking disapproval from those closest to you. But that courage, once found, creates ripples of change that extend far beyond the initial action. As I prepared for bed that night, I received one last text message from Tyler. Thanks for being the best uncle ever. See you at soccer on Saturday. I smiled as I typed my reply. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between keeping the peace and standing up for what's right? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that ultimately create the healthiest relationships. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need encouragement to establish healthy boundaries. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength and clarity in navigating your own family relationships.